a lump in my throat. Oh my days! Did you just hear that? This meeting's being recorded. I've never heard of that
I
before.
did.
It's like every time I try and do either a podcast or like a spoken poetry or some shit, I develop like a fucking stutter or a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've
Oh,
said
I
it
always get that.
perfectly before, and now I just sound like a fucking idiot.
It's the worst. My stutter gets really bad, like every now and then, and I'm like, Charlotte, what are you doing? And then you just know in
Yeah,
your head what you want to say, and your
yeah.
brain is just like, nope, we're not saying that. I refuse to say that. And you're like, please work with me.
Or I use different words like a lot of the time. I don't know if I'm dyslexic. I don't think I am. Well, I don't know. You know what I mean? I've one of those that I've never like had a test or anything. But I'll say words and it's completely the wrong word. You know what I mean? It'll start with the same letter, but it's
Hmm.
completely the wrong word. And I think it's fine. And then I'll replay the sentence I just said. I was like, oh my God, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I've done that before. My favorite thing that people say is instead of specifically, they say pacifically, like
Oh
the
yeah.
ocean. And it just makes me laugh so much. I know that's really mean, but I feel like when I was young, I would have said that, so it's okay, really.
Or I scream instead of ice cream. Like that's a big
Oh
one. I
dear.
remember my dad saying that as a kid. I scream. Yeah, it's like what you scream. It's
Oh,
it's
I
a
used to get told off if I didn't pronounce words properly. My parents would hit the roof, like they'd be really angry, like what what's that word? What, like I think I'd miss what, I can't remember, in like Leicester slang, you miss out quite a lot of, I want to say A's. I think they miss out A's maybe. Oh, so instead of, this is a great example. So instead of saying Leicester, they'd say Leicester, Leicester, and it just sounds ridiculous. But I think when you're a kid and you're around other people that speak a certain way, I think you just can't help but pick up kind of their dialect. And yeah, it used to drive my parents mad. They'd be like, if you speak like that, people are going to think you're an idiot.
I
But no,
mean,
bless them. They were just trying to be good parents.
it's as the difference between the Midlands and the North, right? Like we don't really give a fuck. It's just Manchester in it, mate.
I mean, I think a few people in Cheshire would care, to be fair. Like
Yeah, well,
I've met some posh people around here.
well, that's not home. Manchester's home. Um,
uh,
yeah, I'm from Salford.
oh,
Yeah, and then I only got
yes.
shifted over to go to a better high school, and I grew up in Wythenshawe. So,
Oh, it's a proper Manchester then.
in it, mate. Yeah, totally. So,
I love it.
yeah, I'll say a lot of things over here, and they're like, "Is he speaking English?"
I really don't understand people who aren't English or kind of from the UK. I don't understand their difficulty with regional accents. I don't understand how it's so hard. Like this is so annoying. I once went to Belgium and I was checking into a hotel, and my friend who's from Colchester, who has a slight twang,
Hmm.
a slight Essex twang to her accent, was checking in, and the woman, I said, "Oh, you've got a nice accent." And she said to me, "Oh, I like your American accent. Whereabouts in America are you from?" And I was thinking, America? Excuse me, I speak almost like textbook English. Like I
Hmm.
don't have like a BBC posh accent. I don't have like a strong kind of northern or like even Nottingham accent. I speak pretty much how it's taught. Like
Hmm.
what? I was just so confused. It's like, how does she get there? Like, what? Okay.
Because
Very weird.
a lot of the time they learn the British accent to be like what the Queen would speak or like what it would sound
Mm,
like in London, right? And then they think
mm,
any derogatories from that is going to be like a different English speaking country. Like over here, for
yeah.
example, like they all sound the same. Like if you go the
Yeah.
right at the top of the North Island or right at the bottom of the South Island, the accent's exactly the fucking same. So like they always just go to, oh, okay, if it sounds different, you're from a different country. I was like, no, I go to the other side of my own city and they sound fucking different to me.
Yeah, completely different. Like Bolton accent is so different.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting, and that's something that I personally love about the UK is people's regional accents. I think it's such an important cultural factor within like British society, and I think a lot of people who look down on it, I don't really like that. Like I think it's really important that you kind of own it, and I think there's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of like in acting. Like you see a lot of even just like British dramas, like they very, very seldom cast strong northern accents or like Birmingham accents or even like I don't know southwest accents, like a Cornish accent or something. Like they don't cast that, and it kind of annoys me. And when they do, it's like really over exaggerated, or it's someone from London doing the accent really badly. Like they'll do Scouse, and they'll just sound horrendous. Like it doesn't sound anything like that. And then you'll read that someone's praising how authentic their accent was. It's like, excuse me, have you been to Liverpool? I don't know anyone who's from Liverpool who sounds like that, but okay.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so weird.
it's because it costs a lot to go to drama school, and like it costs a lot to go to drama school. It's like fucking 13
Oh,
grand a year or something.
oh gosh.
And then obviously you got to pay
Mm.
like your rent and your food and your
Mm,
transportation and all that. And it's like, well, most people from the north can't bloody afford that, so you're not gonna
yeah,
get any authentic northerners.
it's annoying. It really annoys me. I think things should be more accessible. I mean, I guess that's just like that's been the issue for ages in the UK. It's just kind of like classism and elitism in gosh, everything, even sport and cycling. Like it's it's sad, especially given sports like cycling were pretty much originally mainly working class people. Like a lot of people who were working class had bikes to get from A to B because they couldn't afford cars, and so they just kind of end up riding these really long rides for kind of entertainment at the weekends and stuff. And then they think, oh, I'll join a local club, I'll go on the club run, I'll do like a time trial or reliability ride. And it's kind of sad that it's gone from that to this arms race where you'll have children who are maybe 10 on like 7 grand bikes. And don't get me wrong, I think if you have the money and you want to spend that and you've worked hard, that's awesome. Like I think it's amazing. But I do think for other children who want to get into it, who are maybe from different socio-economic backgrounds, it's very intimidating, and it does make a lot of other parents feel like they, maybe aren't as supportive, and that's just not the case. They just don't have the means. And I think that it's one of the big barriers in sport. It's why you see so many people, for example, when I used to run, so I used to be a county level runner for 800 cross country, you would see such a vast array of people from so many different classes, so many different backgrounds, different ethnicities, because it's so accessible. Whereas cycling, you know, people would always say, like anyone who has ever met a cyclist at school always says to them, oh, how much is your bike worth? As if there's some sort of like member of the royal family and worth like millions. It's like I go to a state school. I'm not worth that much. Like it's a bike, and I think that it's it's really sad that there's kind of that, oh, it's too expensive for us sort of um almost expectation on the sport. And I think that yes, it is expensive, but you don't have to spend loads to get a nice bike. And often, if you contact a local bike shop or you get into something that's a bit cheaper like track or speedway or even BMX, there's a lot of different disciplines that you don't have to spend loads. I mean, it's still expensive. I can't really deny that one, but it is more accessible than people think. And I think that's one of the things that puts people off, like a lot. And I think that that's probably the saddest thing about cycling is how, most people, I don't know many girls in cycling who aren't white, middle class, privileged
Mm.
young women. And if not, then they maybe work full time and they buy everything themselves through hard work and dedication. And I think that it's a sad topic, but I think it's not something that can change overnight. And I think that if everyone kind of tries to implement change, I think that change will happen. But I think right now it's just trying to figure out actually why is it that culturally white middle class kids do these sports, and how can we encourage people from other ethnicities to feel welcomed into this community, and the people who are currently in the community need to, you know, reach out and encourage other people who they are friends with, because everyone has, well, most people I know have friends who are from kind of different backgrounds and kind of different ethnicities who, you know, might be interested in cycling. It's just often people don't want to push themselves upon others when they see it as, oh, that's their thing, sort of thing. And I think that, you know, cycling can be enjoyed by so many. And I think, especially in the UK, people picked up their bikes probably for the first time in maybe like 10 years during lockdown, because it was, what else can you do but exercise? And I think from that, maybe will be more people from different backgrounds taking up the sport. But it's just sad to see that there's a lack of diversity in cycling, and I think that it's very well commented at the moment that there is an issue and it needs to be resolved. But it's just how to resolve it, I think, is one of the hardest things,
Mm.
especially.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's as an outsider, it looks like it's developed into like an elitist sport, and it's quite
Mm,
intimidating when you know everyone's got all the
yeah,
gear,
definitely.
and mummy and daddy are sort of there at the sideline with all the intra workout sort of
Mm,
glucose things, and then you kind of just
yeah.
rock up with holes in your shoes, and you're like, I mean, you can't even afford a bike, so how am I supposed to cycle?
Mm,
Um, it's yeah, it's a funny one. Like the whole accessibility within sport, like especially taking UK as an example, like
mm,
what is it that it's accessible
mm,
for the working class? We'll say it's like, well, football because you can play it on the street. I was
yeah.
like, okay, what else? Well, kind of basketball, but you're never really going to get anywhere in the UK because our league is shite. And then if you want to get anywhere, you got to go to Europe or America, which costs
Mm,
money. So they're like, well, there's no point
mm,
playing basketball then. And
definitely.
then what else? Well, you kind of stuck with football because you know rugby, not necessarily
Mm,
traditionally a posh boy sport, and obviously the creation of rugby league through the factory workers
mm,
and the half day on Wednesdays, blah blah blah. But most of it's just like football, and it kind of just turns the
mm,
eyes away from all these other sports, like like
mm,
cycling, tennis, maybe anything in the pool, hockey, like all these other netball, all these other sports that you know, in other countries that are frigging huge and could so easily be like dominating the country of the UK. People just completely turned away on. Like I know for a fact
mm,
if I'd have rocked up to an event, they're like, "Oh, Alex, don't worry. Like we'll give you a bike for you to race on if you just like give it back at the end of the race."
mm,
I'll be like, "Oh, wicked." And I rock up and there's all these other posh boys around. I'll be like, you know what, fuck this. Like I ain't associating myself with all these people. Like,
mm,
we're different. And I think it goes further than the sport conversation. It goes into like societal pressures, and it goes into the way the whole fucking community works. Like it's all
mm.
us versus them, and it's like like
Yeah.
I have a pound in my pocket, so I'm better than other people. It's like, well,
Mm,
that's not the case. Like these people are
definitely.
probably better than you at your sport, but they just don't get that
Mm,
opportunity to do so. And
definitely.
it's pay to play, mate. It's pay to play.
Exactly. That's what I always used to think. And when I was younger, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have this amazing career and I'll be world champion. It then came into my head once that, wait, world champion doesn't mean world champion, because in this sport, you're there because of your privilege or right place, right time. If you do happen to be from uh, a different kind of socioeconomic background, but you're not going to be actually the best in the world. It's just you happen to do that sport. You're the best out of the people that compete. And then I was like, do you know what? That doesn't sound as good, does it?
Mm.
And I remember just being really critical of it. Because obviously, when you're young, I mean, not everyone, but I was very critical of everything. I wanted to question why, and I wanted to kind of delve deep into things. And I think that getting to that conclusion was a bit like, oh, I feel really like angry about this. And I'm not sure what it is that I feel angry about. And I think that like if I had kit and I could lend it to someone, I've always lent things to people. Maybe if I went to, I don't know, say an event where I was competing for the East Midlands as like a track team on the track, like indoor track for cycling. If I had something that maybe I could lend to someone else to help them out, like say a carbon disc wheel, I would say, oh, do you want to borrow this? Like I have a spare one, so you know you're more than welcome to borrow it if you like. I'd always make sure that if I had something that I could share, that I would. I do think if you are fortunate enough to have things, it is always like you don't have to, but obviously it's just a nice thing to help
Mm,
out others. And I think that, you see that a lot. Like there are people in the sport who, for example, do have a lot of money but still do a lot of good. And I think that is so commendable and amazing. But I guess you just have to make it appealing to these people to part with their money. It's kind of like the sexist issue and the gender inequality within cycling. Well, what can be done? People can who own their own businesses can support teams that are female, um, that are just female riders, and that's amazing. Or big male teams can have a female division, stuff like that. And it's happening, and it's amazing. And there's even a minimum wage now for women of World Tour standards. So I'm not World Tour. I'm the rank below that. So I'm UCI Continental, which is amazing. It means we can get into more races. You actually have to have a contract, and you and also your team have to abide by said contract, which kind of gives you a bit more protection, but I'm still not paid. At the moment, I'm writing and modeling for money on the side of riding, which I enjoy and I think it's amazing. But it is definitely difficult. Like at some point, obviously, I want that level of security to be paid and have this paid contract. Yes, it is also my dream, but there also has to be a level of standing on your own too.
mm,
Like I'm obviously, as I've said, I'm super fortunate that I have an amazing family that kind of help and look out for me on both sides, which me and Matt are obviously really, really, really fortunate for, because not everyone has that. And again, that's a privilege that a lot of people kind of have over others. If people in your family are supportive, that's a massive part of being successful. You have to have that kind of family force behind you that you know wants you to succeed, else it's very hard to try and get through. I don't know, say if you've missed your flight or something and you need you need to get another one, you need to pay for it, but maybe you don't have the money in your bank because you're a struggling athlete, whatever it may be. Having family there who can be like, do you know what, don't worry about it, I'll cover this, just pay me back when you get paid, sort of thing, or whatever it may be. It's just awesome to have a family who can have your back, whether it be financially, emotionally, take you to races. So time, like that's a massive one. A lot of people aren't fortunate enough. Like I'm quite lucky now because my dad's quite old, bless him. He'll hate me for saying that, but he only works 4 days a week, so kind of Fridays and weekends, if I really need him, he's there. I mean, very luckily, when you get to this level in cycling, your team kind of helps you out with quite a lot of it. But again, if you don't have parents or even a car and you can be self-sufficient, like I'm very lucky. I passed my test when I was young because my parents were like, you need to do this. Like I did not want to do it, but they were like, come on, like get your license, because even if you don't have a car, it's just really useful to have, because if you get onto a team and they give you a car, you have a license so you can accept that. Which funny enough, that did happen. I was sponsored by Ford for 2 years, which was amazing. So I had my car, I didn't pay the insurance, just had to put fuel in it, which that really helped me out in those 2 years. And now obviously I own my own car, so I can get around. But for a lot of people, that's a non-starter. Like they can't afford a car, or maybe if they live in London, they've never had a license because they have public transport or kind of another city, or if they've just come out of uni, they've been really busy and they've not managed to get their license, and they don't have a car or the means to buy themselves a car or insurance for that matter, which is usually a lot more expensive than a car when you're this
mm,
age. It's all a lot, and I think that's it's one of the things that I think people don't appreciate when looking at why are we missing certain groups from society within cycling, like why are they not competing? And I think that it's just it's a small part of a really big picture that needs to be properly looked into and sorted out accordingly, because it's a shame. It's such a shame. Or even when you look at the Commonwealth Games, like you see all of the big colonial power countries that are, well, they basically are companies, countries that, you know, hold all this wealth because they um, used up all these other countries' resources. And it's like you have all these really wealthy white people, and then you have all these people who are like ex-colonies competing, and you just see the difference in kit. It's just, I remember watching the Commonwealth Games once and crying and being like, this is so unfair. Like, I can't believe this. Like, I think it's great that there is a Commonwealth Games. You know, if athletes want to take part, that's amazing. Like, that's great. But I think that seeing the darker side of Britain's past is difficult. It's difficult to see, and to know that, you know, it's affected people and it still affects people today is, you know, another tough part of sport that we have to open our eyes to, I think. And sure, it's not nice, and I think a lot of athletes don't want to be critical or seen to be critical of such organizations or events, but I think that it's really important that actually we say, you know, that's not okay. But if we can all kind of work together through things like the Commonwealth Games, hopefully we can create more opportunities for people who are from backgrounds that aren't as fortunate as ours. But, you know, hopefully they can still discover that, you know, the sport is for them, and whatever sport that may be, you know, it's accessible to them through things like maybe the Commonwealth Games, or even initiatives that could be created to support people and nurture their talents. Because, you know, I think that's the main thing. If you have an organization that can nurture talents, that's really where you start to find really good athletes, like whether it's a university like the American systems, or it's a national governing body like in the UK, like British Cycling. Used to go into schools. I don't know if they still do it. They used to go in schools and find like talented children and kind of give them opportunities, which was amazing. Like, that's great that you kind of go into schools and say, look, this is cycling. This is kind of what it entails, and have a go at this, and if you're good, then we'd like to kind of talk to you more about this. And I think that's great to show kids that, you know, this is a sport that you might never have seen, or you've only seen it on the TV, you didn't think it was for you, but look, you can actually make this a job one day, or for fun you can do it recreationally, like whatever it may be. I think that sport at any level is super important, and it's important that it remains inclusive for people. And I think that it's a really tough topic to try and fix. But I definitely think with the right attitude and everyone doing their bit, I think that it definitely will happen for sure.
Mm. It's really difficult, right? Because, you know, coming out the arse end of colonialism or an empire
Mm,
or whatever, like we can always pick it apart and say, oh, it was fucking disgusting, it was shit, blah blah blah.
mm,
But like, give it 500 years, and
mm,
we'll look back at it at the same way we look back at the Romans or the
mm,
Mongols or Alexander the Great or whatever. You're just like,
mm,
oh, they had these amazing um massive empires.
mm,
Granted, yeah, they did a lot of good, granted, but they also did a lot of bad, wicked. But what can we learn from
mm.
it? This is the
Yeah,
important thing
definitely,
of
definitely.
like, all right, let's open up the dialogue of it. Let's have a conversation. Let's go talk to those countries. Let's hear that side, and let's let them hear our side and have the
Mm,
conversation in the middle. I think
definitely.
we're still in the time where, you know, the cut stings, and
Mm,
no one wants to have a conversation about it. Everyone's just like, oh no,
mm.
because you lot did this. I'm like, yeah, granted, but that was like 100 years ago, pal.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
think that's the thing, and I think everyone just has to be a bit more progressive in
And,
the way that they want to approach things. And I think it is really important that it's accepted that, you know, what happened wasn't fair. But, you know, there were good things that did come out of colonialism, like the extensive Indian railway system. That's one of the top three biggest employers in the world, which is something that colonialism helped to kind of bring to India, which is amazing. And, you know, some people who do come from countries that were colonized, you know, they might have some very fond beliefs about colonialism, which is absolutely great. I would never take that away from anyone. But
mm,
it's just sometimes in sport, I think sport can amplify
yeah, for
societal
sure.
issues, which is something that's always hurt. Like, I remember thinking when I was young, why is it that because I'm female or a girl, why is it that I'm treated differently in this sport? And I remember thinking that when I must have been about 8. And that's probably when I really started to realize that, hey, you know, sexism was the thing, and this is why feminism exists. And I remember being at school and being already so clued up on feminism and why it was needed. And then I remember realizing that actually it's because you've been in sport and it amplifies every issue that there is in society, and it makes
Mhm.
you very aware of the injustices and the discrimination that you face. So yeah, I think because of that and the discrimination that I faced from a young age, even as like a very privileged white female, um, it's it's a lot. And I think that, you know, for a lot of people as well, I think because of that, there comes great trauma. And I think that people would say, well, that's a big word to use, but there's a lot of trauma that comes for people who are discriminated within sport. It's very traumatizing, it's heavy. You know, for a lot of people, it really puts them off doing sport because, you know, whether it be when you're out training or maybe someone's treated you in a specific way because of discrimination, you know, it's horrible. Like, I remember for ages not wanting to go out train because the amount of comments I'd have, I'd even as like a maybe 13, 14, I would get wolf whistled at. People would try and reach out of their cars to smack me on my bottom. Gosh, I was stalked by a convicted paedophile. It was just heavy. And it's crazy that just because I was a woman, I faced this. And I think that a lot of people don't realize how bad women have it. And to me, it's crazy that it's pretty much only been in recent years. People are like, oh, yeah, how women are treated is unfair. And it's like, people want women to talk about it. And it's like, it's too heavy for me to talk about it. Why is it now that you want to talk about it? Because when I wanted to talk about it when it was happening, who did I have to turn to or to talk to? Because
Mm.
society wasn't wanting to listen. It's not an individual, it's a society.
Mm.
Like, as a society, we have to take the stand and say, do you know what, we want to listen? Or, you know, don't push women for their stories of discrimination because it's heavy, it's traumatic, like it hurts physically. And for a lot of women, it's been the barriers to why they've maybe stopped going to the gym, stopped going for a run, stop meeting up with friends to do things, or even to like do yoga and stuff. It's so sad that women feel they have to hide themselves because society doesn't know how to act towards them or around them. And I do think at times it's almost been put on women that, well, you know, if that happens, then just don't go there. Well, why should I have to stop going and enjoying sport? Why should I have to stop moving my body
Mm.
or wearing sporting stuff
Mm.
just to stop being harassed and sexually assaulted? Like, it's not fair. And I
Mm.
think that society is definitely changing on that one, but for me it hurts as to how long it's taken. Like, I definitely feel women are unfortunately treated as second class citizens, even in the UK. Like, it's heavy.
I'm gonna post something here that all that is on the man. So on the man's responsibility.
Mm,
So I think so we like to throw like politicians under the bus or society under the
mm,
bus, blah blah blah, right? But everything starts on the ground level. And if, say for example, a lady is experiencing that, then it is
mm,
up to the males within that circle, all right, which is usually around, to fucking do something about it. And I don't mean
mm.
get all physical and start throwing fisticuffs and all that type of shit. But I mean, like, actually, you can tell when the environment changes, right? When you're like, okay, I have the support
Mm,
of my peers around me, whether they're female or male or whatever.
mm,
And if you always rely on fellow females that have experienced the same thing to group together and be like, yeah, we're going to ban the drum for women, it was just like, then we're creating us versus them. I think it's on the fucking
mm,
males to be like, hey, this is not something we experience, but we also experience something that they don't experience. That's because of this
mm,
fucking differences in biology and social fucking norms and all
mm,
that type of shit, right? So why don't we fucking stand up for them, because they're fucking human beings like us, and they're gonna do the same for us.
mm,
So it's like, all right, I hear your pain, I see what's going on. What can we do to then stop it
mm,
happening in the future? Or what do you need right now? What support can we give you right now?
mm,
It's rather than just going, all right, tell me what happened to you, because then you're just like sucking out the pain out of someone. It's like, no, no, no. We're just here
Yeah,
to support you,
definitely.
you know? We're not here to fucking make you feel
Yeah,
any more pain.
definitely. Definitely. I think that's the thing. I think as well, you it's very hard to override people's socializations. You know, their primary socialization starts from a very young age, and I can't remember what age it stops at. I think it's like maybe 13 or something. But that child's upbringing, their parents, what their family is like, the school they go to, what their friendship group is like, maybe what the teachers push on them, all of these very important, vital role models in their life, how they treat women is a massive indicator of how they'll go on to treat women in their later life, or even things they look at on the internet. You know, if they choose to look at people being violent towards women on the internet, you know, they'll start to, even if they think, oh, this is okay, it's not real, it's just fantasy. It's very hard to differentiate between those sorts of doing those sorts of actions as kind of, okay, so what's acceptable? It's just like saying to your mate, like, oh, that girl is attractive. Is that okay? Or, you know, is saying, I don't know, ganging up on a woman and I don't know, forcing her to talk to you, or chasing her down the street, pursuing her, all of these things, like different levels. But are they okay? I think there's so much that needs to be covered, and I think that people are scared. I think a lot of people are scared as to, oh, well, can I approach someone that I find attractive at a bar and ask for their number? I think that, you know, it's crazy that people have got to that level, because sure, if you just go up to someone very respectfully and say, oh, hello, like have a conversation with them as a normal person, ask for the number. If they say no, that's absolutely fine, walk away, say have a nice evening, leave them. I think that that sort of thing, that should just be like normalized, that if someone doesn't want to talk to you, like, just, that's fine, but just make sure everything you do is, you know, consensual. I mean, it's pretty obvious in my opinion to look at a person and know when they're confident or comfortable to talk to you. Like, I wouldn't, like, if I was to say have a conversation with someone next to me on a train, I'd be very aware very fast whether or not they wanted to be having this conversation with me.
Mm.
And I think that stuff like that, like social interaction, should be taught in schools. And I think this is something that is very vital. We need to understand when we've overstepped the mark with people. And we also need to obviously understand when is too far talking to someone of interest, shall we say, for someone, whether it be that they're attracted to them, they want to be with them, whatever it may be. I think that there just needs to be really honest and black and white kind of conversations to be had, just like the conversations that were had maybe like 3 years ago about consent, and it being very much like, it's just like asking someone for a cup of tea. If they say no, they don't want a cup of tea, leave them alone. Like, don't keep asking them, do you want a cup of tea, are you sure, are you sure? That's harassment. That is pressuring someone to have said cup of tea. They don't want it. And I think that, again, what you said about, you know, saying to, you know, your peer group, if you see that someone is, you know, behaving in a way that you deem to be unacceptable, calling them out, like I would if I had a female friend, or even a male friend, or, you know, a friend who identified as non-binary, whatever
Mm.
kind of background they come from. I would just say, you know, I don't think that's okay. Like, what, why is it that you're behaving that way? And I think that if you really question people and make them question their belief system, which has obviously been set up over years, if you question that and, you know, try and get to the root of it, you can often find out why. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, we'll just stay away from him now. Okay, that's great. You've ostracized him, but you didn't explain to him necessarily why what he did was wrong and why you're stepping away from him. People just need to be very to the point. No, that's not acceptable behavior. I'm not okay with you treating men, women, whatever, like that. I'm not okay being around this sort of energy. If you'd like to be part of our, you know, friendship group or whatever, please don't treat people like that, because we don't want to see you treat people like that, and it's not fair on the person. Like, how do you think it made them feel? And it's just kind of questioning why people act like this, I think, is also important.
Mm.
um it's just, it's sad to see, and I do think that a lot of people are on the side of the people being harassed. Like, it's horrible, but I do think that again, it's not necessarily something that's easy to sort out. Like the people who I've had most issues with have been people who are very old. Like the person who was stalking me, I think he was in his late 70s. I don't even know if he's alive anymore. That's how old he was. And when the police questioned him, funnily enough, he didn't see anything wrong with what he was doing. And that's the scariest thing when people don't. And I think people like that, that's when it really needs, police intervention and trying to safeguard people, because it's just not acceptable for anyone in society to be scared just to live and to be. I think that's when, it's really the most tragic outcome, is when people are just so scared. And, a lot of people are scared, from all angles. People are scared. People don't necessarily want to be out when they're alone, like out alone at night. I think that, even if you've gone out, I know guys who've just been picked on because they're tall and like glassed in clubs when they weren't causing any trouble just because they were tall. I think just singling people out full stop and harassing people is just wrong, and that's just basically what needs to be taught in schools. Like, I was really lucky and all that sort of stuff was pretty much covered when I went to school. But I know a lot of people who, when they talk about kind of PSHE lessons, that sort of stuff wasn't covered. And I think that it just needs to be mandatory, really.
Mm, It goes, I think it goes beyond defining boundaries. Like it taps
Mm.
into that sixth sense and that like common sense that we all should have,
Mm.
right? You see so many people who are book smart, but then would cross the road on a fucking bend, and you're like, excuse me. Um, but it taps into that where it's like, okay, assess the situation. If it
Mm.
feels a bit weird, don't fucking do it. Like, just
Mm.
walk away. All right. You might think she, he, them, they, whatever, that person is absolutely a 12 out of 10, right? But if something seems a bit
Mm.
off, let's be honest, it's not going to be good. So
Yeah,
you might as
definitely.
well just leave it alone, because you know you're going to guarantee that nothing bad's going to happen. You're not going to get into trouble,
Mm.
whether you are the aggressor or whether you're going to be the person on the defense.
Mm.
And I think it goes beyond it, and it's like, let's now look after our peers. Let's be aware of the things that happens on both sides.
Mm.
All right, so
Mm.
female to male, male to female, both the non-binary, trans, like
Mm.
every single
Definitely.
avenue. I'm like, all right, let's have a conversation. Where
Mm.
is the shit in this avenue? Okay, cool. That's awesome. I've learned something. I really appreciate you opening up.
Mm.
Next
Definitely.
time, I'm going to be a bit more, turned on of the whole, okay, now I can see what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, it was really
Mm.
eye opening being over here. Like, apparently, 1 in 3 females in New Zealand experience domestic violence in their lifetime, which is
Mm.
just a disgusting figure, right? A
Mm.
third of their population that are female um, get beat, which is not on, right? And then at the same
Mm.
time, females are only taught, don't work home on your own at night. Only females. And that to me
Yeah.
didn't compute, because I come from inner city money, right?
Mm.
So everyone's taught, don't walk home on your own at night. And
Yeah.
don't walk through some parks in the middle of the
Literally.
daytime. You know what I mean? Like,
No. Exactly.
you're gonna get fucked up. So
Mm.
I was sat there, and I've had many conversations with myself, with fellow females that are Kiwi, and I'm like, I'm trying to understand this. And I'm like, okay, cool. And what I've ended up putting my thumb on is, it's the whole concept of individuals or some pockets in society believe they are better than other people. So, for example,
Mm.
we'll
Yeah.
use the blanket statement of males think they're better than females. All right, for argument's sake. I know that's not the case for everyone. That's definitely not speaking for me, but we'll use it for argument's sake. And it's kind of breaking down that concept of, you're not better than anyone else. All right. There's going to be differences
Mm.
in people. Yeah, granted, because there's
Mm.
differences in biology, there's differences in where we grew up, accents, all that type of stuff. Yeah, great. But it doesn't mean you're any better than them. And it doesn't mean you get to control
Mm.
that person. And it's breaking down that sort of
Mm.
social norm. which I hate to say it is a norm, but in some places it is, breaking down that
Mm.
social norm rather than, oh no, we have a law or a definition that we need to obey by. It gets a little bit more complicated because now you're working with people and people don't work by the books.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that that is an issue. I also think that the issue of ownership, I think
Mm,
that in certain parts of society, there's this idea that a woman is there to be owned.
mm,
I think that sometimes concepts like marriage can help to promote this. I don't think always, because obviously there's a lot of people who are married who definitely don't think that their wife belongs to them. But I mean, if you look at traditional vows, it's the wife basically belongs to you, will do everything you say. My parents didn't have that in their vows. My mum and dad took that out, which is very feminist of them for the 80s. But yeah, I think that it's crazy the way that people are kind of almost commodified in a way and seen. I think this happens a lot as well, with people thinking that other people, that they're better than other people. I think this happens a lot, unfortunately, to the trans community, where heterosexual cis males will see themselves as kind of better, and therefore, like, will just treat people from these backgrounds and these groups in a way that they wouldn't treat other people or themselves. And I think
mm,
that people need understanding and respect towards everyone. I think
mm,
that you no one is better than anyone else. We all have a unique path that we've traveled. We should listen to each other. We should respect one another, and we should also be there for one another, because, life is hard. Humans don't have to be this horrendous to each other. We choose to be this horrendous to each other. And I hate it when they say, yes, but like, so and so did I don't care. Like, two rights do not make a wrong. Like, I grew up going to church enough to know that that is not how people should behave. It's not okay to behave like that. It's not going to benefit anyone. As hard as it is, forgiveness is hard, but forgiveness will set the person who is hurt free. It will set everyone free. And I think that that is also something that needs to be practiced more in society. Don't hold grudges. If you hold the grudge, what's that going to do to you? It will just give you anger and hate inside of you. And you don't benefit from having hate and anger. If you love other people and you respect other people, and you know deep in your heart that you are a very good and genuine person, you're going to live such a good life in comparison to people who are angry and harbor hate. The people who are angry and harbor hate, no one looks at them and says, I want their life, or they are happy. No one looks at them and says that. I look at them personally and think, gosh, like, you're full of so much anger and hate. Like, I really hope you heal, because it's not happiness that's radiating from you. And I don't get a good feeling around those sorts of people. But I would never wish them more harm or more hate. I just hope that whatever is eating them up inside is eventually, spoken about or set free, because no one should feel anger or hate towards another human being. It's not in our blood to do that. Humans are meant to live in communities. We're meant to be, social animals, but somewhere along the line we decided that we don't want to live that way, or a lot
mm,
of people decided that they didn't want to live that way. And I think that that's something that is really disheartening about, not modern society, because it's been happening for a long time, but in the age of social media, where we can contact people so easily, but a lot of the time we choose not to. And then, for example, when people do come to pass through, you know taking their own lives and stuff, people say, oh, it was so sad, but did you look out for them? Were you there for them? Were you a community with them? Were you a peer? Because I think a lot of the time we get so wrapped up in our own self-importance and self-righteousness that actually we forget that we're part of a community, whether that be the community of your followers on social media, the community of the sport you participate in, the community of the gym you go to, your work, whatever it may be. People are part of communities in lots of different ways, whether they like it or not. And it's really important that we all work together in these different communities that we're part of to make everyone's life better. And I just see it all the time, where people don't do that, and instead they decide to spread hate and animosity and envy, and it drives me mad. It really puts me in a place where my anxiety is through the roof. I don't feel, with it. I just feel so wrapped up in this. Well, how can this be? Like, and Matt always says, you worry too much about why people are the way they are, but it's just something that baffles me when people are so full of hate and so self-obsessed to the point that they don't care to see the people around them and how they're being affected by everything or their own actions. Even when people can't say sorry, that's a great sign of this uh kind of self-obsession and self-righteousness, when people can't just admit, oh, sorry, that was my fault or my mistake, or I didn't mean to make you feel like that, I'm sorry, or I was going through my own stuff. Just owning whatever it is that you've done, good or bad, is such an important thing that people just don't seem to be able to do a lot of the time. Like, obviously a lot of people can, but I feel like I tend to come across a lot of people who can't, and
Mm.
that it's just not healthy, and it's a part of society that really upsets me to the point that I'll literally be upset. I might be like, "What's wrong?" And I'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm thinking about this and then this," and he'll be like, "Whoa, like don't bother yourself with that." But I think it's really easy to say that if you're that kind of person. But I think that I for sure get bogged down with the fact that it's not productive to be this angry. It's not productive to be that sad, that you decide to put out all of your hate and anger towards other people. And I accept that, some people might know that there's something wrong with them and they might be suffering. And, obviously mental health help is is hard to come by. Like, it's really hard. I tried 3 times and was turned away. Once I was told by my GP that I seemed fine. And I was like, wow, I really didn't know that you knew me on a personal level. But there's so much you can do, that you can talk to people, you can confide in people, you can text, the Samaritans, you can contact Mind Charity. There's so many things you can do to at least look out for yourself and why you are the way you are. Because if you're unhappy and you see yourself or you catch yourself wishing harm or hate or envy on other people, it doesn't benefit you to live your life like that. And that's something that I've struggled with. Like, I've seen myself, for example, like, I'm not sitting here saying it from oh, people who do this, they're horrible people, I would never do that. I've done that when I was really sad and really not okay. And that's okay that I've accepted that and I've held my hands up to that. But it's the people that don't. Like, I've even had conversations with people saying, I'm sorry, like, if I ever hurt you or like put my negativity out on you, like, this is what I was going through. I didn't know it at the time, but now it's been diagnosed and stuff. It's like anxiety and depression. Not to say that people who have anxiety and depression treat people badly. That's a horrible misconception about mental health. But for example, if you're close to someone and you have anxiety, it can manifest in ways that, for me personally, can come across as not as maybe understanding as I should have been in situations. But you'll say this to people who've equally hurt you as much, and they won't say anything. They're like, "Yeah, thanks, that's really nice." It's like, okay, I'm not going to get a sorry from you. I'm just going to have to move on and accept that you don't see your wrongdoing, and right now is not the time for you to reflect on all of your downfalls in life. And that's fine. That's your journey. I'm not on that journey, and I just have to try and leave it alone and walk away from it. But I can't deny that I do think about that sometimes, and it does eat me away.
Yeah, I'm the same, and you take the responsibility of the world and you place it on your own shoulders,
Mm,
But
definitely.
one thing I will say is, like, the people that do end up lashing out and causing a little bit of animosity for other people and getting a bit aggressive,
Mm,
they're scared. They feel vulnerable
definitely.
because they're hurting, because they've hurt
Mm,
since a kid, because they're going through something right now that they don't like, and it's hurting them, and they
mm,
don't know how to express themselves. And I dare to say it, like, most of the time it's from a man, or it's from a boy, or from a adolescent, or whatever. Like,
mm,
it's from a male figure that has no fucking idea how to express the emotions or why they are
mm,
feeling the emotions that they're feeling. And then the only thing you get is the shit end of the stick, and that just causes
mm,
more problems and more pain, and more issues for other people. And we tend to stick in this fight, flight, or fuck mentality. It's
Mm,
just like, I am going to kill everything, because if everything's dead, nothing can hurt me. And
mm.
it's true, right? If you destroy everything, or you push everyone down, then nothing can hurt you, right? That's great. But at the
Oh, for
same
sure.
time, you'll end up ripping yourself to pieces, and you'll
Mm,
destroy everything else in the meantime. So is that the most constructive thing you can do with your energy?
mm,
We can safely say that's probably not the right thing to do. The hardest thing for a bloke to do is to feel vulnerable. The second hardest is to feel vulnerable amongst other men, and then
mm,
also like towards women too. Like, there's societal pressures on ladies, and that's been insane amount of pressures on women for fucking God knows how long. Which now it's amazing. It's kind of, some of them are coming to the forefront, and we're like, all right, we need to tackle these. X, Y, and Z need to
mm,
go first, and then we can go through A, B, and C.
mm.
But at the same time, like, you watch anything and you read anything and you hear anything, and everything involved with a male figure has to be this strong. We don't talk, we do whatever is needed to be done. We look after the woman, family, friends,
Mm,
whatever it is, your mother. Um, and then it's like, all right, yeah, button up, it's fine, no problem, we'll die in a battlefield. And it's like, we're not,
yeah.
that's not the way things happen, because, we, I, I'm going to use a term which I don't actually mean, but it makes sense of the sentence. We were blessed with wars because it killed you before they had the opportunity to kill themselves. So they had a
Mm,
purpose, right? We could fight for, quote unquote, the common good against evil, right? And then we can, like, all right, I've got a purpose, blah, blah, blah. And most of them get taken out. What happens in the arse end of that? PTSD, shell shock, as we used to be called, and all that from there. Right. Now we're in a state of, quote unquote, peace. Okay, what do we do now? Well, we've been bred, and society has pushed you into this thing of, you are a warrior, so you have to come
mm,
across like you can't crack. But what do you do in a time of peace? Well, you practice for war. Well, if you practice for war in a time of peace with people that aren't doing the same thing, you end up just destroying them, which is really, really weird. Like, the whole, how, like,
mm.
society has just completely different, like, pressures on male and female, because we're not that different. We're really not
No.
that different. Like, if you think about it, the traditional, like, male female partnership, like, we like to do the same things,
Mm,
right? And even if, like, female female partnership, male male partnership, like, again, we like to do the same things. So
mm,
whatever we identify as, it doesn't matter, because we're all very fucking similar. But
mm.
the pressures kind of shoved on you is just so vastly different, which just creates this cyclone of conflict in the middle. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
and I would have to go back to anyone that causes any type of hurt for other people. I always go back to a quote that I read. I think it was from, like, an ancient, like, philosopher in China or something like that, where it was like, only people who are hurting hurt others.
Definitely. I think you touched on a lot there. I think that I can't remember the quote, like the straight quote, but in Fight Club they say, oh, what is it that that Tyler Durden says? He says we don't have a great war. Our great war is a spiritual one. It's our lives or something. And I
Mm,
was just like, wow. I remember doing that in A level literature and just thinking, wow, like this is such a progressive piece of literature. Like I couldn't believe it. Like, a lot of people watch the film and be like, oh wow, Brad Pitt. We love Brad
mm,
Pitt. You know, yeah, that's great. Brad Pitt is phenomenal, but um the actual piece has so many kind of warnings about toxic masculinity within our culture. And what that was written, I want to say, was it 94, 96? It was written. So, we were being warned about toxic masculinity in the 90s, the mid 90s. And now look, however long on, and we're still sat here. Everyone is being affected by toxic masculinity, women, children, men.
mm,
I think everyone in creating equality for people, you set men free from toxic masculinity to be themselves.
mhm,
It's crazy that it was in the papers, everywhere about Harry Styles wearing a dress. Well, if a man wants to wear a dress, let a man wear a dress. It's not whatever men want to do with themselves. Women have been more promoted to express themselves in their, their visual appearance, or their, maybe not their personality, because again, you're ostracized if you're a big like personality female. You're seen as kind of, oh, you're problematic, or
Mm,
you're a bitch. Whereas obviously a lot of people I know who are very big personalities of female, I think they're fabulous, wonderful people who support any kind of discriminated group in society, stand up for people's rights. I think they're amazing. But for sure, with toxic masculinity, it's such a horrendous thing because men, they don't talk about their issues, and that's the problem. More women are diagnosed as having mental health issues, but more men commit suicide because men don't go to the doctor. They don't talk about it. They let it build up until it's too much and they see no other way out. And I think that I have heard girls say, "Oh, you don't want to be with him. He's got issues," or, "Oh yeah, he's a bit like depressed," or, "Oh, he's a bit emotional. Oh, he cries." Well, I cry. Why the hell would it not be okay for someone else to cry? Like I'm a human. I breathe air. Like this person also is a human and breathes air. Oh, guess what? They also have emotional needs just like me, and they need to be vulnerable with someone. And I think if you have someone in your life that you're close to, you are also responsible for creating that environment where they can be vulnerable
yeah,
and they can express themselves, and they can, also discover themselves. I think a lot of men get to their 20s and say, "Oh my God, who am I?" Because
yeah,
I've just been, hanging with this group of lads since I was a kid, and I've just been kind of wearing the same thing as them, doing the same things as them. But who am I inside? What are my beliefs? What do I want to assign myself to? You know, what do I want to wear? Do I want to wear this? Do I want to wear that? And I think, like, even going shopping with males, if I pick something up and I say, "Oh, this is really nice. I think that would look nice on you." Oh, would it? I think that's a bit like too bright, maybe a bit like flamboyant, maybe a bit too in your face. I'm like,
yeah.
no, it looks nice on you. Like, I don't care. Like, fashion is for everyone. Fashion, you can express yourself. It's a wonderful way of expressing yourself. And in that moment, you forget that actually, as a woman, me expressing myself with bright colors and stuff is just, I guess, what people have come to expect. If you're a woman, you wear all black. Or why do you always wear black? Can't you just be a bit, happier, wear some color? Or if you, for example, don't smile a lot, oh, why don't you smile more?
Hmm.
Well, maybe I don't want to smile. Whereas men, it's always, oh, why are you doing that? Oh, you're wearing nail varnish. Oh, okay. Oh, you're wearing makeup. Oh, does that mean you're gay? Why does every stereotypical feminine change in a man have to have anything to do with his sexuality or, his gender identity? It doesn't. It's okay to express who you are or want to dress in a feminine way, whether you're male, female, non-binary, trans, whatever it is that you assign yourself as. It's absolutely fine to dress however you like, be whoever you are, love whoever you want. It doesn't matter. Like, it's society shouldn't have an opinion on what you do if it's making you happy. It doesn't hurt anyone else. There's no issue. But I think that society loves to have these boxes, and you have to stay inside this
Oh,
box. And
yeah.
if you deviate from this box, you are going to have hell. And I just remember thinking as a kid, I don't care about society, and whatever society wants me to do, I'm not doing it. And every single time something bad happened, I remember this in year six because it was something that was written down in my a parents' evening report. Every time something bad happened, or the teacher's like, "What do you think of this, Charlotte?" in year six, I'd just say, "I blame society." And you know what? I was actually spot on. It's probably society that is the issue. And I just remember like watching TV and the news and be like, "Oh, society." And I was just like, where did this precocious kid get this idea that it's society? But you know what? She's right.
Yep.
She's very aware. And I think that it's so sad that you get to an age and think, who are you? Or if you, for example, didn't have parents who were more holistic in their approach to kind of find who you are as a person. Like, I was super lucky. The school I went to was really relaxed. You called the teachers by their first names. Humanities was compulsory, so you had to do humanities GCSE, which I loved because it obviously challenges things and it kind of talks about society's like negative impacts. Then obviously went on and did stuff like sociology, and I did psychology, but I dropped it because I didn't like all the all the, like, I think it was maths or something. There was some maths in there, and I was like, oh, not for me. But
Mm.
there's so much that like I learned from school, being in like in a student-led environment where I was allowed to be who I wanted. I could cry in English if I wanted to. If I was moved by a piece of poetry, it was fine if I wanted to cry, because that's just how I responded to this piece. Like, that's good. That's what art is meant to do. It's meant to make you feel something. If you're angry or sad, if you're talking about views, if you're talking about things that past governments have done, our current government, if you don't sit there and feel something, whether it be happiness, sadness, rage, misery, whatever it is, you're sat there feeling something that is positive. You are there, you're being human, you're being present, you're listening, you're understanding, you're being empathetic, you're being apathetic. Good. Just feel. And I think that there's just this view in our society so often that, why are you feeling? If you feel this intense, something is wrong with you. Oh, you must be like bipolar, or you must be depressed if you're crying a lot. And I think that we just want to label everything. It's like, oh, if you're not good at this, or you're definitely dyslexic. My parents never had me tested for anything. They were like, nope, we don't want her tested. Don't you dare like label my child. My child is not there to be labeled. She is Charlotte. She is herself. She's gonna do whatever she wants. And I think that I'm really lucky to have had parents that stood up for me and my rights as a child. Because again, people try and cast away children and be like, oh, small child with lots of character. No, let's like beat that character out of you. You have too much of it. You don't fit into this system like that. For example, I used to have this job where I'd work mainly on the children's section in this bike shop, and I loved it because the children were just so funny, so full of character, often like toddlers getting their first bike. And I remember being at the tills once after serving this family with a really, really lively, funny child, and I just said, "Oh, they were really sweet, weren't they?" Like, it's so nice to have like a full blown conversation with a toddler. Like, you don't often see children like that develop that young and that kind of eager to be on a bike and to experience things. And this colleague who I was working with, who was quite a bit older, said, "Well, that's the thing about children. You see this character, and you just really hope that the world doesn't beat it out of them." And my heart just dropped, and I just realized on the drive home that there was so many times in society where the character was trying to be beaten out of me, and I just didn't let it, and nor did my parents. Like, as annoying as I was, and as just naughty as I was by society standards, I didn't change. And had I have changed, who would I be now? Would I be as strong? Would I be as empathetic? Would I be as creative? Would I have a job in writing? Would I be able to, you know, uh, talk with people on the level I do? Would I be able to be as honest as I am with my social media? You know, would I feel valued? Like, I really don't know who I'd be, and that scares me, because who you are is just the whole point in your being. If you don't have, if you're in a position where you're not fortunate enough to be able to express who you are, it's just so horrendous. And I obviously see that, I've lived a very privileged life in the way that I can be who I want. And even if society doesn't allow it, or, I'm unfortunate that discrimination gets in the way, I don't let that stop me, because I'm so full of character and energy that I just don't care anymore. If someone doesn't like me, I don't care. Like, I take it as a compliment. I'm like, oh, you hate me. You could probably be jealous of me, or you just don't like me because you know so much about me, because I put so much of myself out there that you can have a decision on me. Like, that's great. That means that you know who I am. But equally, it does get a bit of backlash. Like, I've had comments, but I don't care. I want to be honest. I want my social media to be a place where people can look and go, oh, this is achievable. Like, or this is a person I can message in a time of crisis. Because, if one person out there messages me when they feel horrendous and think, I'm not sure I want to be here, then that's amazing. That's my job done. I've helped one person, you know, feel that the world isn't as lonely as it's perceived. Like, I think it can be lonely. And I think it's so hard to reach out to people. So we just need to be more honest and say, look, here's an olive branch. If anyone wants to grab this olive branch, be my guest. I'm here. I'm not looking for gossip. I'm not looking to judge. I don't want to judge. Whatever your issue has been, please talk to me, because you're not alone. And, I'm not professional. I've been through a fair bit of therapy. I've done cognitive behavioral therapy, all of that, and I've been through quite a lot myself. And I'm not there to pretend I know what I'm on about. I'm just there to be a human to another human, a compassionate, caring human. And I think we all have that in us. It's just whether or not we want to show that side to us, because that is another vulnerable part of us, to say, it's going to be okay, or to allow other people to open up to you. That's also being vulnerable. I think that's difficult, but I think a lot of people have also tried to open up to other people and have said, oh, I get depressed, you just need to smile more, or oh, I get depressed, I just keep myself busy. We're just giving people, in doing that, ways to just keep the pressure rising inside, and we're not dealing with the issue at hand. I've said to so many people, maybe if you're fortunate enough to be able to get the help, maybe you should get professional help. And the amount of people who've come back to me saying, I spoke to my GP, or I went and got help, I went and spoke to a therapist, I'm like in therapy now. Honestly, there's been times where people have messaged me and I've just cried. Like, my heart has ached so much for them, and I just wanted to make it better. And I can't, but what I can do is I can be compassionate. We all have that in us, but it's just whether or not we value ourselves, because it is part of it is about valuing yourself enough to know that you can help. Like, you can help. You're human, you have the tools, you can do it. You just need to love other people as much as you love yourself, which is, I really do love myself a lot, and there's no shame in saying that, but equally I love people just as much as I love me. And I think that's where I get my deep love for people from. And as well, growing up with my grandparents, going to church every Sunday, you really love, especially for me personally, growing up in a Protestant church, the love is so it's so present. Like, I just, all the time I'd go to church and people would be so loving and warm towards me. It didn't matter what background you were from, who you loved in that church, you were just there to be loved by everyone, and it was a welcoming environment. And whether or not people have a faith, whether or not they have a faith that's different to that, whether or not their faith is just, they believe in people loving other people, or whatever it may be, maybe they're spiritual, maybe they're atheist, it doesn't matter. If you find a way to love other people and yourself, that's such a wonderful thing to experience. And I think that is pretty much the point in life, is to be there as a community and love other people, whether it's within sport, within your family, within your home, whatever your home may be made up of, just housemates, you and your pets, whatever it may be. I think that the biggest tragedy is when people live a life where they don't love, or are too scared to love. And in that way, they don't end up loving themselves ever. And I think that seeing that for me is something that really hurts. I'm just like, oh, I wish that you could just love yourself in a way that is so unapologetic. And I think that we have this obsession, especially being British, of why do you love yourself? That's a bit weird. Or you're a bit cocky. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. I'm happy being this way, loving myself, loving other people, because no one who's close to me has ever said, I know they would if they did think it, has ever said, you don't love me enough. People always say you are so like kind, and we feed off of that. That's like the nicest compliment. You're a good friend. Oh, you're really loving, you're really caring. I've even heard people say, oh, he's too like loving, like he's annoying. What? That's a great thing. That's an amazing thing. Like, that's a really attractive thing about people, is when they love so much and are so caring. Like, even if it's not conventional love and caring, it's small things or small gestures, it's just still so wonderful. And I think that's the problem. And because of that love and compassion that people have for each other, the world heals.
Mm.
And I think that's the problem at the moment. Obviously there's so much hate in the world, and whether it's towards the climate, towards other countries, politically, whatever it may be, I think that the barriers are there and people want to divide us. But I just think that, yes, we can disagree, but I can disagree with someone and still love them. I can disagree with someone and still want the best for them. I can disagree with someone and still be compassionate. And I think we focus way too much on hate, and without sounding too like hippie and spiritual and horrendous and annoying, it's the thing that society is love. Love will stop discrimination, it will stop toxic masculinity, it will free women. If you love people in the same way you love yourself, or if you love yourself to then love other people, the world will heal, the climate will heal, we'll care about things more. We won't put, you know, profit before love and the environment and people's well-being and health and all this. We just need more love in the world, I think, or we need to harness our own love for ourselves to then be able to love other people. And I think that is literally all life should really be about. And that really falls into, you should only really care about health and happiness, which is
Mm.
true.
I
Completely true.
completely agree with everything you just said. I think to love yourself means you love life, and if you love life, you
Mm,
must love other people. You love
mm,
the cycle of life thing, all things living, and I think everything you touched on spirituality. I'm a little bit spiritual myself. I think everything ends up being, it comes down to you need a deep conversation with yourself. Like
mm,
every problem in the world, everything that you hate, you usually already are, or you are scared to become. And
definitely, definitely.
it's you spend a little bit more time on yourself. You spend, whether you want to classify it as loving yourself, giving yourself
Mm,
time, working in, whatever the fuck you want to call it,
mm,
it doesn't matter. It's all the same shit. Then you end up like giving out only good. You know what I mean? And
mm,
if everyone only
definitely.
gives out good, then we don't have any problems anymore.
Mm,
All these issues that we
definitely.
bang the drum for goes away, and something that you touched on with people getting labeled of you're this, you're that, you're part of this group, you're part of that group, blah 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 blah. I think that's half the problem, is getting this label of, oh no, because I'm not part of that group,
Mm,
whatever. It's like, well, why? Because now we're just creating more separation. And if you
mm,
create separation, then you cause conflict. It's the quickest way to cause conflict, is to separate two groups of people,
definitely.
because they'll
I
start
think
thinking, one's better than the other, and then, oh no,
exactly.
this land is better than your land, but I also
Yeah.
want your land because I can't have it.
Mm,
It's like, well, get rid of all the labels. No one cares.
mm.
That's why I say, like, I'm like, call me what you want. My name's Alex, but you can call me what the fuck you want. Like, I might not like respond to it. I might just walk away because like whatever, I might be thinking about something else. But you can call me what the fuck you want. Like, it doesn't matter. These labels mean nothing.
Mm, definitely. I think that's the problem. I think that we do get so obsessed with labeling things, and you know, the only people really who it benefits are people writing out official statistics. Like,
Hmm.
I can say for one, if you're trying to quantify statistics, it's so much easier if you put labels on people. And don't get me wrong, it can help society because you can point out trends that
Hmm.
are negative. But when it comes to people and their complexities, people are such complex beings. To say that they aren't is unfair, to put it mildly. Um, it just takes away everything. Like, don't get me wrong, I still get angry, I still get passionate, I still feel all these emotions as someone who wants to love everything so much. I think that that's really important, that you still feel a lot of things and you feel a broad spectrum of feelings, because when I don't, it's when I'm depressed, and that's horrendous. It's horrendous when I don't feel like anything, I don't even feel like getting out of bed, and it's just gray. It's just everything is gray. And I think that, especially as someone who has kind of unknowingly gone through a very toxic, lonely spell of depression for well over 10 years, I think that to feel so much, it signifies to me that I'm healthy. I'm healthy, I'm happy, because obviously health isn't just physical, it's mental as well. And the mental then kind of is put out in how your body is physically. The gut is pretty much the brain of like your mental health. Like, if your gut is healthy and happy, your brain is going to be healthier and your mental health will be better. And equally, if you're unhealthy mentally and your brain is not kind of feeling good, your gut will do all these horrible things, which I'm sure if you've ever suffered with anxiety, depression, you'll know the aches that you get with it. It's crazy. And I just think that, you have this body that will carry you, and this brain that can do so much as a human, and you can free so many people, even animals. You can free animals in being loving. You can um help create a better life for pretty much everything in existence just by being a loving person. And again, loving doesn't have to mean that you're not a human that feels anger, that feels all these things, even envy. You can feel envy. I'm not expecting anyone not to feel envy, but it's what you do with that envy. You can either decide, yes, I'm going to be envious, I'm going to hate this person, or I'm envious of this person. But why? Am I Do I find them admirable? Do I admire this person? Is it envy that is maybe something that I can use to make myself more motivated? Is it something I can use to think, oh, actually, I think I want their life, or I want their personality, or maybe you want to put off the energy that they put out. And I think that through that you can learn, what is my body trying to tell me from this? Instead of being like, oh my God, I hate this person, I'm just going to keep scrolling through their Instagram, and they make me feel rubbish because they're so perfect and they're so pretty. And oh, I hate that. It's just like, great. They look different to you. Brilliant. And it doesn't matter. Whatever anyone wants to look like, if they've had work done, whatever, that's not up to you. That's their decision. Leave them alone. Like, if you're constantly picking apart other people, you're not loving yourself. We should focus more on how people are as humans and what impact they have on society and their peers. I think that it is true to say that, you can tell a lot about a person by the people around them and like kind of how they make them feel. For sure. Like, you see it a lot with people you're not sure about, and you maybe listen to people saying things, but you aren't sure yourself. But sometimes people have got others wrong, but often I've found that if I've got friends warning me about, that person, you might want to kind of steer clear, or just be mindful that they can act like this. And me being me, I just want to love people better. I just really, I think that my love will fix people. I don't know why I think this. I'm not Jesus, but I just think that if I love people on the way that I love myself, maybe they'll be happier. And sometimes people are unfortunately not at the stage where they're ready for that. And people might label them, oh, they're a lost cause. Well, they're not a lost cause. They're just not at the right part of their journey to be able to take in the love and the support that people around them want. But that's fine. I think that you just have to be mindful that not everyone is at the same journey, and don't judge people on the way, because that's the other thing. I used to really struggle. I judge people in a way that was unfair, and that judgment only caused me pain. It didn't benefit that person either. Like, what is my judgment doing? Is it benefiting anyone? Is it productive? No, it's not nice. It makes me harbor feelings that I don't want, and therefore I'll put them out onto people around me. No, everything that you think you are, and everything that you are, you put out onto other people. And I think that, maybe I'd have thought that was really stupid, and oh, don't tell me that, like, you're wrong. That's such a like a spiritual way of thinking, and oh, those people are too positive. But I really do believe that now. And I think that, again, I wasn't at the place I needed. I was angry at the world and society for a lot of the things that happened to me. And I think um, you have to be at the right part of your journey, whether that be when you're 10, 20, 60, even 100. It really doesn't matter what age you're at on that journey. It just matters that at some point you get there and you realize, oh, this is kind of why I've been thinking like this. Or, you know, maybe the things that I did didn't benefit me, and maybe it hurt other people, and that's fine. But you just have to take ownership in your um you have to take ownership in your part that you've played. And I think that you have to definitely you have to definitely be on that specific part of your journey to realize, like, oh, this is my fault, basically. I think we have such an issue of being like, it's my fault. It's like, no, let's point the finger at someone else. It's like, no, Pointing the finger doesn't do anything. You're just displacing blame. It doesn't benefit anyone. It doesn't make you feel good. That person probably not even in your life anymore. They're probably having a great time off doing something else, focusing on themselves, and you're just sat there like, oh well, back in 2004, blah blah said this to me, and I'm really angry. But like, what did you do to get them to say that to you? Like, did you have a part to play? Like, what was your part to play in these things? And I think, like, since I've been like this, like, I've realized so much. Like, I've realized that things I said to my mum were horrendous, were not fair. You know, I wasn't a nice person, and I can't stop saying sorry because it makes me feel so horrendous. It's like, oh my gosh, why did I say that? But you know, I was at a part of my life where I wasn't happy, and it was very obvious looking back. Whereas, you know, I just thought that the world's against me, and no one wants to help me, and poor little me. And yeah, maybe poor little me, but just pointing fingers didn't help me or benefit me. You know, it got me into a deeper hole and a bigger mess that took me longer and longer to get out of. So I think that it's really important that we are more aware of how one another kind of behaves towards ourselves and other people. Like, I think it's really important that we kind of call people out, and not just on, you know, sexist behavior or, you know, transphobic behavior, whatever it may be. Just call people out when, you know, they're falling short, because it's not just you they're doing a disservice to. Most importantly, they're doing themselves a disservice. And I think that you should want everyone to flourish, because honestly, if you truly believe in yourself, like as an athlete, you have to believe that if you put yourself in the best possible position, you're the best. And if you don't think that, why are you in sport? If you actually want to win, I mean, if you're doing it recreationally to enjoy it, or you're competing because you find it fun, or you have more of a role that's a more team-based role where you're there to help other people, I mean, that's great. You can still think that too. But if you are truly someone who believes in themselves, you should honestly think that if you put yourself in the best possible position, you are the best in the world. No one else can come close to you, but you shouldn't think that everyone else is below you because of that. You should just think that, know that, and use that as motivation for yourself, and use it as something that drives you forward, you know, a driving force, instead of, you know, thinking, oh, well, I wonder what so and so's doing. I wonder how much so and so weighs at the moment. What are they eating? What are they doing? Doesn't matter what they're doing. Their journey is different. Their body is different. They are not you. They are not you. And, you know, that's their power. It's their power that they're them, and it's your power that you are you. And I think that, especially in our social media obsessed society, we so badly want to be other people. And I don't. You know, for years I wanted to be someone else. For years I would think that I was, you know, unlovable. You know, people, oh, people didn't fancy me. People fancied so and so. I don't care. I actually don't care. It doesn't matter what people think of me if so and so likes you or doesn't. Like, it's not something that's important to me. And I think that, you know, if, for example, breakups that, you know, upset me so much when I was young, I was like, no, my life is falling apart, even if I didn't necessarily like them as much by the end of it, which sounds horrendous, but everyone's been there. And you think, looking back, gosh, it wasn't them that I was upset about, it was me. It was the fact that I didn't think I was something that they wanted. I wasn't worthy of something. It's not the fact that they had changed their mind and you know, I was upset. It was the fact that it was, oh, it's an attack on me. Like, how dare you attack me, sort of thing. Like, and I think that, wow, you thought so little of yourself. That the thing that you were bothered about was not the fact that you've just broken up with someone. It's the fact that actually, you know, there's something wrong. Like there's something that's made you feel a way about yourself that you don't like, when actually you need to get yourself into that position where, you know, for example, if my relationship didn't work now, that'd be really sad, but I'd be like, do you know what, it was a great time. And if you don't want me in your life, if you don't benefit me in that way, like you don't see me as beneficial in that way, that's absolutely fine. Like, that's your loss, and that's how it should be. Like, but for ages, you know, films, for example, put this across in such an annoying way that kind of really like brainwashes young girls. It's like, oh, he doesn't want you anymore. Well, that means you need to like have a glow up or change, or, you know, change your hair, go blonde. Oh no, you need to lose weight. Oh, you need to have this killer body. You need to get really, really toned. No, I don't need to do anything. someone doesn't want you, someone doesn't value you, if it's friendship, relationship, whatever it may be, even a job. Like, I've been fired before and I thought, oh God, it's the end of the world. Now I'm like, thank God they did. Like, look at me, I'm having a great time. Like, maybe it's not what I envisaged, but I'm having such a great time professionally doing the things I'm doing, and I've never been happier. So if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. And I'm absolutely fine that I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Like, I'm my cup of tea. And that's what's important. And there's no shame at all in that. But again, to try and change society's views towards those sorts of things is not going to happen overnight, and I'm absolutely fine in that. So I'll just keep doing what I'm doing on my social media and in person, because it's exactly the same. And yeah, just authentic. That's what I think everyone should be. And if you are not a great person, just own it. If you're a really like happy person, own it. If you're a bit of a miserable person, own it. If you're really creative and artistic, own it. It's just like, don't allow people to settle below the standards you've set. So like, even if people, for example, want me to do something for free, like, if someone's trying to get you to do something that you're good at or is your job for free, you know, maybe if you want to sponsor someone, that's great. But if you were not expecting that, don't settle for it. Set the bar high. It's your life. Like, you should expect what you're worth in life. You shouldn't just settle for what people want to set your worth to you as. Like, I won't allow it now. If someone doesn't value me, that's absolutely fine. I'll just say, great, don't be in my life. Or if you don't want me to write or whatever it be, model for you, that's absolutely fine. I don't care. You're lost. And I think that that's how everyone should be. The same with sport. If you don't get picked for something, whether it's your national team, your kind of your own team, I don't know, if your mates play like football and they don't want you to play, instead they've made a new friend, so be it. It's their loss. Like, I think you should value yourself on such a level that you say, the issue isn't me, that's fine, I'm gonna carry on doing whatever I wanted to do, and their issue, that's a shame, but not my issue. You need
Mm.
to focus on it. But if they want to talk to me about it at some point, I will sit here with open arms and listen with no judgment and compassion.
Mm. That's a really it's a really hard place to get towards. Like sometimes you need
Mm.
to I think every time you need to traipse through the mud to get there, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, for sure.
I think everyone will end up getting there. You know, it all goes
Mm.
back down to everyone's got to do the individual work, and then we can come
Mm,
together as a
definitely.
collective. And
Mm.
it'll happen, but it just takes a little bit of time,
Mm.
right?
I think that's the thing. Like, I've spent a lot of time with people. Not that people in this age bracket are old, it's just they tend to be a lot more self-aware. People in their 30s and 40s and above, they're a lot more self-aware than people in their 20s. I feel like in your 20s, me personally, I found that it's a bit like, ooh, where's the boundary? Have I overstepped the boundary? And I find myself writing emails saying sorry when I don't need to say sorry. Why am I saying sorry for just asking a question about a job that I'm
Mm.
doing? Like, you're just making sure of things, or maybe it's a bit of anxiety. Why should you apologize for that? Like, it's just you being you. Stop apologizing. If people are offended by that, then well, that's bizarre, not your issue. And I think that, like, you don't have to wait until you're 30, 40, or 50, or beyond to be in that. I think that, you should want what's best for yourself. And it does take a while. I think that, unfortunately, having a lot of stuff happen when I was very young, it kind of forced me to grow up. And being in the sport from a young age forced me to grow up. I've been through some horrible times, but now I'm older, I see that in those moments when I was like, I want this to end, I can't do this, this is too much, I'm scared, I want to go home, I'm not sure where in my heart where home feels like, all of that stuff that I hated the moment when it was happening, I've learned so much from now, and it's helped me to understand other people, or why they act the way they act. Or I can pick up on a lot of behavior that I see uh, from my younger self, like harboring hate, and you know being at times a shit feminist, like horrendous. Like, stop judging women, stop judging men, like stop judging people for expressing themselves. If people want to do that, fine. Like, it's not up to you. You should be someone who advocates people being free. I
Mm.
shouldn't advocate, oh, well, you don't fit into my idea of feminism, so you know what, you're below me. No, that's not a thing. It doesn't exist. Like, as a woman, I should just be like, yeah, let's set everyone free to be their authentic selves and love whoever they want to love whenever they want to love them, and be whoever they want to be and whoever they feel in their heart that they are, regardless. That's just how it should be. And I should own exactly who I am and accept the things that I've said before that were not nice of me or shitty or below the bar, all of that stuff. I accept that. I acknowledge it. I've moved on. I've learned from it. And if other people are happy about that, and if I've offended them and they're happy to move on, that's great. And if they can't, I'm really sorry. But, there's only so much I can regret things. And if they don't want to forgive me, that's fine. And I think that at that point, you just say, okay, that's fine. Like, if people don't want to be in my life, that's absolutely fine. Especially if I've said things at times that have hurt them or have been perceived by them to be offensive, then I'm really sorry. But, I'll own it. If they don't want to be in my life, that's fine. Like, if that's too painful for you, then okay. Like, I accept that. Like, that's something that I've done that I have to deal with the consequences to, and that's fine. But I think that, we have a lot of I think they have quite a victim mentality, and I'm not a victim of anything. Everything that's happened to me, I'm not a victim. I'm someone who survived this. I'm made of hard stuff. I'm a Broughton. Like, I'm just gonna keep going on. Like, I might complain, but I will keep going on. That's for sure.
That's the key. Just keep trugging on, like no matter what, like just to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and just
Yeah.
keep fucking going forward and never end that good
Mm.
fight, as my brother told me many years ago. And yeah, it stayed with me. Never end the good fight.
No, for sure. And that's just life. You just have to keep fighting on whatever life throws at you. You just have to say, okay, take a step back, reassess. How am I going to get over this? What do I need from the people around me to get over this? And what am I going to learn after this? Or what do I want to take from this situation? And I think that before I would have just run around like a headless chicken, like, oh my God, my life's over. I'd probably, have a kitchen floor reset at my parents' house on the floor crying, probably tell them that everything's rubbish and life is so unfair, and they just be sat there like, oh my God, again, is she okay? Is she gonna eat dinner tonight? What's wrong with her? And I think that through all that pain and suffering and drama, bless my parents, I've definitely learned a lot. But equally, it's good to go through stuff. Like, I know that obviously it doesn't feel good at the time, and it is traumatic, and it can affect you for the rest of your life. But I've decided I want it to affect me in a good way, because what else choice do I have? If I wasn't, if I was to see everything that's happened in a negative way, like when I crashed my car and wrote it off, and I thought I was going to die, and being stalked, and sitting there in A&E when I was having basically a mental breakdown. What other choice did I have? Or when, I was being bullied at school, when I used to have to run past this bunch of girls to get home, or when I didn't know who my friends were at school, so I'd sit there and I'd hate when the bell would go for lunch, because I'd be like, right, who do I sit next to? Like, am I allowed to be in their group? Do they talk about me when I'm not there? Oh, like, do those people like me? Oh, those girls are shouting at me. All of this stuff, like, great. It hurt, but I learned so much from it. Even the jobs that I've done that I hated, that I felt so disrespected in, I learned something. I learned that this is what it's like working a minimum wage job. This is how people are going to treat you in life if you let them. And a lot of the times I just let people treat me like that, because I thought, this is how I should be. I should be a bit docile. I should be pleasant. No, hell no. Stand up for yourself. Know your rights. Do not settle for what people want to treat you like if it's not how you expect it to be treated. And don't let people pay you less than what you expect to be paid. If you're obviously like freelance, or, if you're self-employed, whatever it may be, you are worth something. And if people aren't prepared to, pay you that, whether it be in actual physical money or in love and attention, and support, then that's fine. They're lost. They're lost. Move on. You've got a great life ahead of you, hopefully. And there's a lot of people who, unfortunately, haven't been lucky enough to get to the age that, whatever age you are, there's been a lot of people who haven't been able to get to the age that you are. And you should be super thankful for that. And as annoying as that is, because people always say that, oh, there's someone always worse off than you. Yes. And it can still feel awful, and it's a different type of awful. But, there is so much to be thankful for if you just look for it. And I think that that's the problem. You do have to be active in it. So I appreciate that. Obviously, if people are going through a really rough time and they're maybe deep in the midst of mental health issues, it can be really, really hard. I'm not expecting people to, go soul searching at that time. At that point, you really just need to focus on keeping yourself alive and trying to be healthy, striving to be healthy, recover, all of that. But I think that, yeah, we're just so lucky, and especially with the pandemic, it's made me really realize that, oh my God, like, I'm alive. I'm here in this moment. I've not died yet. I will die at some point. I'm fine with that. I hopefully will die before the people I love, because I am very sad when people die, because I just love people so much. But I'll be fine. Whatever happens, I'll get through it. I've got amazing people around me. I'll be fine.
That's gorgeous. That really is gorgeous. Mate,
Oh.
thank you so much for the conversation. I fucking loved it.
You're very welcome.
When are you next on the road?
Oh, so I'm not sure when I'm racing next. I do have a national coming up, which is really exciting. So that'll be the Cycle Classic in Rutland, which is the 27th of June. So that's like the biggest race that I'll start with. When I'm actually racing, I'm not sure, because I'm currently waiting to hear when my next job is going to be, because it's kind of, the logistics of it aren't 100% at the moment. So it won't be this weekend. I might race maybe the next weekend, but I am going to go see my parents soon, which is super excited. I cannot wait to give my mum a hug. I'll probably not let go. I wasn't this clingy as a baby, bless her. But yeah, so hopefully soon I'll be racing again, obviously now that my hand's healed from that small fracture and the sprain. But yeah, hopefully it's soon, fingers crossed.
Keep me updated when it is, and I'll keep an ear close to the ground and be cheering from the middle of buttfuck nowhere all the way down here.
Oh, that's awesome.
All right, mate. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
You have a good night.
Thank you, and you. Bye.
Take it easy.